Okay, fantastic. So my name's Maddie Longhurst, and I work with the Urban Agriculture Consortium and with Chiara and Jade and a number of others here on this landed community kitchens project. And we're really delighted to welcome two amazing people, Ari from Coexist Community Kitchen and Jo from Manchester Urban Diggers Kitchen and Cafe, who are going to share their experiences and their knowledge and wisdom with us today. So this is part of our kind of knowledge exchange program where we really like to invite in all the wealth of experience that's out there in this world of landed community kitchens. And just for clarity, I'm going to ask Chiara to introduce herself and give a very brief kind of outline of this landed community kitchens project and what it's all about. So over to you, Chiara, just for a few minutes, and then we'll pass over to Ari, and then we'll go to Jo, and then we'll have sort of Q&A. So there'll be space at the end of each speaker to just a couple of minutes just to jot down your reflections and any questions before we go on to the next piece. So if you've just joined, please do just introduce yourself in the chat, and I'll pass over to you, Chiara.
Thank you, Maddie. Welcome, everyone. Exciting to be here again for another Knowledge Exchange Day. The Landed Community Kitchen is a piece of work and is a concept that started a few years ago when, together with colleagues, as part of a broader research project, we started to reflect on how can we reimagine way of organizing the food system and society more broadly around the work, the important work the agroecological farmers are doing. So we started to look into how and what kind of infrastructures we need to support farmers in their day-to-day work. The Landed Community Kitchen is one of such piece of infrastructure. So, and we think is really an important node that can enable producers to access markets, and at the same time communities that are working around food insecurity can enable for that healthy food to be affordable and accessible to people in need and to the broader community. We call it Landed Community Kitchen for a number of reasons. First of all, because it is connected and aimed to be connected to agroecological producers. So many kitchens tend to only offer surplus food, but the kitchen that we are working with and we are trying to support are trying to move away from just surplus food and to be able to to shift progressively towards more agroecological supply chain. And we call them rooted also and landed because they are grounded in communities. They are grassroots. They are not just businesses that try to make a profit, but they are really organizations that understand the need that is in the communities around them. And they are doing more than just producing food. They are really addressing the broader need and the structural issues that are affecting communities around them. We have been working, I've been working with Maddie and the rest of the team over the last year and a half, and I have just now secured funding to take this work further to the next 4 years. And I look forward to be working with many more of you out there. I think this is it, unless, Maddie, you want me to expand on something in particular?
No, I think that's great. And just to add that in the room here, Ellen, Sarah, Halle, Kieran, Jade, Bex are all part of the of the current project as well. So are all sort of learning from each other and the wider network. Brilliant. Thank you, Chiara. Without further ado, I'm going to pass over to you, Ari. And I'd just like to, if people can, go to the top right corner of their screen where it gives you an option to view and what your viewing kind of format is. If you want to, you can switch to side-by-side speaker, which means that you'll be able to see Ari and her screen share side by side each other. And if everyone else can mute, then Ari, we should be able to see you if you're once you speak.
Yeah, so can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you can hear me, you can see the community kitchen picture.
Yeah. And you can slide, there's a little slider between the two pictures, so you can make them the same size or one bigger or smaller. So yeah. Lovely. Over to you, Ari. Thank you.
Hey, well, brilliant. I'll just start from the beginning of the slide, and it's just going to be a loop for a few minutes of some pictures of them, just to give you a bit more of an idea of who we are. I'm not really one for PowerPoint presentations, so it was more just this was a good visual while I spoke. And I'm also going to put myself on a 10-minute timer to give myself a little bit of a heads up, because as soon as I begin, I can get very passionate and forget to follow the actual thread. So I guess, yeah, thank you so much for having me on this call. My name is Ari Cantwell. I'm part of the team that set up Coexist Community Kitchen, which is a non-profit cookery school in Bristol. So I will talk, Maddie's given me a little bit of like a thread to go through, but I'll give you a little bit of an overview of who we are, and then just try to like kind of link in a little bit more to what the theme of today being around, like specifically in relation to land workers, growing, agroecology, and also what that has really brought up for me is the kind of like lack of that and the difficulty of connecting with that when you're in a urban space. So Coexist Community Kitchen, we're a non-profit cookery school based in Bristol in Easton. We are what that says on the tin. So what it looks like every day of the week is that we are running free at point of access cookery classes with young people and adults who are accessing some form of support service. So generally that could be mental health support services, drug and alcohol recovery. We work a lot with people who are accessing the refugee asylum systems, so who've come here through fleeing or being forced to leave their country. And we are running cookery classes. That sometimes looks like basically teaching people how to cook, but a lot of the time it is actually giving people the space to cook together, to share their own stories, cuisines, dignities, learning, expertise, because what I'm sure many of you are attracted to this conversation because we know that food is such a cliche, but it's such a leveler. It doesn't mean that we all eat the same things. It doesn't mean that we all have access to the same things. But what we know is that you need to eat, and that if you're not eating regularly, that is a problem. And that's a problem because of societal structures. That could be around poverty and economic situations, or it could be also, which could be linked into that, an issue that is connecting you with your mental and physical health, which, as I said, that can be sat in all of the structural inequalities as well. And so we know that by cooking together, by sharing food together, we are taking part in a wider network of building connections, capacity within people and ourselves to have confidence, to ask for more, for what they need, for their communities, for themselves, and also to have, so from everything from the political and the big and the needs for change in our society, all the way to the connections that you just have over food and around the table, and how deeply important and nourishing they are on every level. And so we are doing that by chopping onions, by stirring stews, by sharing recipes. And all of our classes are free at point of access for the communities that we work with. And that obviously allows people to be able to access that. However, we also recognize that that's not that the need for connection and belonging and home through food and through community doesn't stop or start with someone who is accessing a support service. But what we know is that the minute that your material or social resources are either impacted or have continuously been impacted negatively, it means that that first point of nourishing yourself and nourishing the people around you is what goes so quickly. So I'll stop that and just stop sharing my screen for a second. So you've just seen some pictures of like what we do, and hopefully that gives you an idea so that I can further embellish as well now. But that is in essence, we are a cookery school, but we know that we are a space for supporting other people to share their knowledge, as well as the tutors within the cookery school genuinely teaching people how to cook, and that's young people and adults. And as I said, it's not just about people who are accessing support services, although that is the focus. We recognize that everyone, or feel and believe that everyone deserves a place of connection, to feel cared for, to have a sense of belonging, a space of home, whether they have that physical space already or whether it's been stripped from them or that they never had it before. We know that sitting around the table, spending time together, talking and sharing is what I deeply believe is like the one of the most beautiful and things of our life. And that's so often the place that people don't have. That's the space that people it's so hard to get to when that's not part of your life or it's been stripped from you. So in our own little way, we're trying to kind of do that at the Coexist Community Kitchen. How we do that in connection with how we choose our food, how we work with growers, how we work with land workers is a constant conversation of ours. We're constantly thinking, how do we in the center of a city that's where we are based is quite an urban center, it's concrete, it's residential, there is some beautiful parks but not much growing spaces, and there are many people doing amazing growing in allotments or small projects in the city centre, but a lot of it, which is also wonderful, is more like city farms and smaller growing spaces. And so the connection to how food is grown, where it's grown, and on the kind of bigger picture is quite hard when you're in a city. And obviously this is a question that I'm sure you are familiar with. So how to connect people with the food, how to value growers who are growing the food, that's constantly kind of part of our conversation, and the use of organic and local being a central aspect of that to how we run our space, in that we feel that it's the true cost of what not using that is devastating to our earth. And obviously we have to engage with the realities of what access we have to working with people who are growing on land nearby Bristol or organic distributors around the country, and how we build that conversation in to our classes. And we kind of choose to do that depending on what the level of which group we're working with. So we're working with young people and children, we might be talking about it on a completely different level than if we're working with people who are already kind of excited or interested or curious about this topic. But it does strike up that real question to me of, we don't have a green space that's obvious next to us that we could collaborate with a local allotment, but there's not like a proper space that you can really learn how to grow on, that is literally by the kitchen. You have to go somewhere else, you have to walk somewhere else, you have to take a bus somewhere else, which makes it all possible, but makes it less integrated. So that's often a thought process in our heads. But it's deeply important conversation, and it's present like throughout our kind of how we buy things, how we talk about things, and where we source our produce. And alongside our cookery classes, which is our core work, alongside that we run, in order kind of to generate our own income, we're about 50% funded by grants and donations and about 50% generate our own income, and would love to move that more towards a 70-80% aspirationally. And I guess the catering aspect of it is really where we are very much integrating a lot more of the conversations with growers, trying to talk to people. We have one local farm called Three Hares Farm, and then Sims Hill, which are Bristol based, and the area where one of our team does a lot of work at Sims Hill, which is a CSA. And we're trying constantly to figure out how to build more links to talk with growers about what they are growing, what we'll be needing for our menus, and at the same time dealing with the restrictions of a busy, fast-moving projects that are usually under capacity in terms of resources and also staffing. So that kind of constant dance that you might have, that I'm sure, again, many of you who seem that you're involved in this kind of work will probably experience, but it's very much a constant question. And so through our catering arm is not separate to our catering arm is not separate to the work we do. We try to fully integrate it into our values and how when we're working and training people through our classes, because some of our classes are very community oriented, very kind of semi-therapeutic focus, and then we also have training courses where we're training people to become caterers or to skill up from home chefs or to change their knowledge from maybe the country that they originally are from and they set up businesses or ran catering or restaurants in their own countries, how to translate that into a business in the UK. And so through that program, we also offer work placements in our catering in order to kind of fully integrate that and reflect the work that we do. So it's not just here's our income generating arm and here's our community work. It's all very much part of the program. And that the catering is definitely an income generator. So it brings up a lot of questions of how do we say yes or no to community projects that don't have money but also want food and catering. And so there's definitely, again, a dance with that. And I think that the deeply important aspect of how we work throughout our whole project is how do we maintain our values and our vision all the way through. So from the community class where someone is coming in for access around mental health and maybe doesn't leave the house very much and actually cooking is not their skill, all the way to catering for weddings and working with people that we've been training or who are already chefs in their own stead, and we're creating quite different food maybe because of price points and because of expectations. All the way through that, we're thinking about who is growing the food, who's eating the food, how do we create sense of home, sense of belonging, spaces of equity in the way that we work with people, the way that we share the food that we create, that we want to talk about, and the stories that we share. And I think that weaves its way, we hope to, and I mean always more to do, but we hope that weaves all the way through the community classes that we run and the food that we put on the tables at our wedding. Just want to how am I doing for time, Maddie? Oh, you're on mute.
You've got about 4 minutes or something left till
cool.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of who we are, what we do, how we weave in the kind of what's our kind of reasons for being, why do we do this, is so much around, I think, deeply around care. And us, we have very strong feeling that we've been developing in our group, in our project this last year, about how care has been so care for each other, care for the land, care for our communities, care for ourselves. That care is very, it doesn't come as a new idea to you, I'm sure, but care is just so undervalued. Even the word care doesn't bring it's not exciting, it's not joyful, it's basically completely undervalued, even though actually care is the most joyful, the most valuable thing that you possibly can do, is care for yourself, care for others, and care for our environment, our land, our world, and I think that's been a real strong informer of of the choices that we make in how we do things. And that, I think, maybe something just to end on is something that we've been really developing this last year, which hopefully could give another little window into what we do. is that we do a free monthly meal, which again won't be that different to many pay what you can solidarity cafes. But what we've been really trying to do is that it's not that there's no payment at all, and that the message is if you can pay for a coffee sometimes in your life, that you could support the project. But what we see is that because of that lack, there's no barrier of the finances, and of course that means that it needs to be funded by some in some way. It means that we have every month a kind of restaurant experience using organic food that we've been working with local, either a local producer or donations from a gleaning network or from an organic distributor, that then we're putting food on the table that everyone is sharing, eating alongside each other. And there's a real mixed demographic of communities that are alongside each other talking, and probably only really those of us who are regularly working or part of the project know who might have been accessing our services or not, and or who might be someone who has disposable income or not. And that kind of, and you really see that come alive, sharing that food that is nourishing for your soul, nourishing for your body, and nourishing for the earth. And I think that that really is what we kind of hope for. And I think the big question of landed community kitchens, just to finish on this, is I don't probably have the same, I won't have the same lens as maybe Jo from Mud, because of the kind of like disparate nature of like how we've created our society along the urban rural divide, and how we're not working on land in the same sense. We're having to integrate in a kind of like contrived way how to bring that forward, that conversation to the table. And that is very, if you think about it, how strange that is, and how we develop that in such a short period of time in human society, that we're disconnected. We don't know where the food comes from before it gets to our table, and many of us don't know how to cook it, and we're often not sharing it with others for various reasons. And I think like that is a massive question as part of a community kitchen that really attempts that, but we're in the middle of an urban space and that's not our kind of focus. But it's like how to integrate that further on like a conversational level and also a practical level. So that's really something that came to me when I was thinking about this, and how we are not a market garden, or we don't have that land with that works with it, but how deeply important, and also how shining a light that is on our society, that is not connected, and how hard it feels to connect sometimes, even with so many people doing interesting things in Bristol.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ari. And their food is amazing. I've eaten Coexist Community Kitchens, catering a number of times at different settings. It's absolutely incredible, and they always love to talk about what they do and how they do it. So it's really like consciousness raising wherever they go. Yeah, it's brilliant. Thank you, Ari. Let's just take a couple of minutes, just in silence, to kind of reflect, digest, and to write down any questions that are coming up for Ari that we'll ask later on. Mm. Okay, fantastic. Brilliant. I'd like to now introduce Jo, who Jo Payne, that's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who is going to introduce herself more in a moment. But from Manchester Urban Diggers, Mud, who they run catering, kitchen, cafes, various aspects to it, also connected to a market garden up there more directly. So I'd love to hear about your model, and again, just sort of 10-12 minutes, 10-15 minutes, Jo. And
yeah.
Did you have anything you wanted to? Yeah.
Can I do that?
Let me hold on, let me just close that, share.
It's just loading at the minute if it does stay. Shall I click share?
Yeah, I think it should let you. It's not.
Yeah, there you go.
Brilliant.
Can everyone see that?
Hasn't appeared yet on my screen. It's thinking about it. Yeah, there we go. Can others see it as well?
Okay.
Yeah, fab.
So this is a drone shot of Platt Fields Market Garden, and it's I'll just quickly tell you about my personal experience. I'm from Manchester, Salford, Eccles, Manchester, depending on what you bothered about, but it's basically grew up in Manchester. And I've always liked food and stuff, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and so I've always worked in hospitality. And in 2000, after studying graphic arts and design, I found a job. I was in hospitality and managed to find a bit of youth work, and then from there I managed to get a job. I did a training course with Farmstart, Kindle and Trust, which I'm pretty sure you all know about. And that was sort of the game changer for me in my career and life, really. So after doing a year-long commercial organic market gardening course with my brother, we were given access through a friend that we made on the course to a disused bowling green. I'm going to just switch. I wonder if I can I switch like that and you can see it? If I do that.
It hasn't changed yet.
So it's a disused bowling green in the middle of a public park in a busy, really diverse area of Manchester that's sort of like on a really busy bus route from the city centre. There's lots of students in the area. There's Rush Home, which is, I don't know if anyone's been to Manchester, the Curry Mile. It's like been an area for immigrants, and a lot of, it's really diverse and mixed group of people living in the area, and the park obviously is a very popular park. Anyway, it was like incredibly sort of lucky situation to be sort of given this disused keys to this disused bowling green. And basically we just thought, right, let's grow some veg, and we thought we wanted to do maybe a veg box scheme. So this is in 2017, and then obviously over the years, with my experience of hospitality and my sort of idea of like wanting to grow, I did a street food project for a little bit. But sorry, I missed a little bit. I've had too much coffee, sorry. Basically, I I got a job for Feedback Global, which was the gleaning coordinator of the Northwest in 2017, alongside the same time that I got the job. That started doing the garden, and became like so much more aware of like what's going on with the farm waste, and like you say, we are so disconnected from the farming and the large scale farming that goes on in the country. So I met a lot of farmers and worked with a lot of farmers, and not a lot actually, a handful, but also just at that point started meeting a lot of groups in the Northwest that were doing things with surplus food and things. So it just gave me this kind of experience in this world of like people doing amazing stuff with food and community. And I guess something that I'd always wanted to do was maybe do something myself. And also just, there's just not that many jobs out there. So when we started growing the food, the site itself, it's 2 disused bowling greens, and there's a fence down the middle, and there was a shipping container had been turned into a brew room for the bowling club, but it'd become derelict, and then an old derelict toilet block as well. So over the years, we started off with no money, obviously all volunteering. We started building up, having regular volunteer days and things like that. I don't want to go into too much detail, but basically we've never had any core funding, and we've fundraised ourselves, and it's all been project based. And because there was not really ever a business plan or a business model, it was very like reactive to what was happening in like the local area and in society, like at large. Obviously, COVID hit and things really changed. So we kind of like started cooking for our volunteers, just using the veg that we had at the garden with a little gas cooker. Like it was like really, really simple, and it was just about all feeding each other and eating together and using up the produce. Sorry if it's a bit windy. Sort of as that's grown over the years, we started running something called, we started feeding the volunteers regularly for free, and we saw that it was, as a way to pay people back, obviously working a hard, long day, and obviously we had all this lovely produce, and we did that for a long time, up until about 2 years ago we started charging £3 per volunteer, and if people couldn't afford to pay, they don't have to. So it's just to cover the costs. It doesn't quite cover the costs. Anyway, so the community lunch has been running for about 5 years, basically, because what we realised is we were making these big pots of food, and then we had more people coming in, so we just all ate together at the same time. So every Friday and now every Saturday, we the volunteers come down. We all harvest what we harvest, if there is anything to harvest. The chefs and volunteers now as well cook the food. Everyone serves at 1 p.m. Everyone sits down together at 1 p.m. and then everyone washes up, and then everyone goes back to the job or leaves or whatever they want to do. It's a very, very relaxed kind of volunteer day. We call it gardening club at the minute. So technically gardening club's been running for, I think we started a gardening club almost immediately. So because in some form or another, we've been doing it for sort of like 9 years, but it's developed with the experience of learning what works, and like a Friday and a Saturday works because it's like people that don't work at the weekends can come on a Friday. Some people take Fridays off, so it's sort of quite a good catch-all day, and this consistency that we sort of stuck to as well, with the fact that it's always going to be always a Friday regardless. We've had very small little chunks of money to fund that, but Mud has like sort of, because it's the whole idea about Mud is that it's about growing food in this, like an education around growing food. We sort of saw it as a way to fund the growing, was to sort of keep funding the volunteer project. Anyway, so that's community lunch, but and the sort of the way that it's grown. And then obviously over the years, like especially in lockdown, we started getting bits and bobs of funding to do other projects. So it's all about kind of like growing food in the city, but also yeah, like Ari's saying, you know, it's about showing people where we grow our food and just connecting people with food again, and being just that experience of like being together in a space where you can be relaxed and feel safe and just like be in a kind of a beautiful environment, be outside. It's really hard to get anywhere outside in the city. So yeah, all of those things that everyone's probably all very much aware of. So Mud really started to build when we all decided to like quit our jobs and go for it and try and get some more funding. And like we're similar, we've got around a 60-40% split, like trading income. Trading versus grant income. But Mud Kitchen kind of like turned into like a proper thing just after lockdown. We had some funding to employ a chef full time and to renovate the old toilet block into a proper kitchen on site. So on the kitchen, on this garden here, can you see my screen?
It's still showing the original drone shot.
Yeah. So at the back there where you can see the polytunnels in the middle, just those two units at the back, that one on the left is the kitchen and then the orange one on the right is the cafe. And we sort of have slowly over the years sort of developed the cafe and the kitchen offer. And it's had lots of different versions over the years. And I'm not sure like how much detail people want and specifics of like the kitchen business side of things. And like, I don't know if I feel like it's probably more maybe useful for me to sort of, maybe I'll just see if I've got some pictures here that I can just show you. This is our old AGM stuff, but we made this like Venn diagram of how we sort of build. We feel like everything is, well, I mean, it's just everything, isn't it? It's personal well-being, it's about the environment, it's about bringing people together, and we just think that we have to do all of those things. And this is just boring stuff. Let's see if I can find some pictures. There's some income stuff, but I don't know if anyone wants to say any of that. Oh, this is not the right one, is it? Let's see if we can get it on this. Yeah, that's it before we start. That was just when we were growing veg, just growing veg. But basically what was happening is we were just having lots of people coming down and getting involved. That's Mike and Sam who we set up together with. So just some early pictures of us just growing on the site. Those, and we had a forest school for a bit. We've got bees now on site. It's just like all sorts of bits and bobs going on, and it's developed over the years. That's us gleaning some pumpkins. So I carried on gleaning every now and again, but I left feedback when they ran out of funding. So yeah, there's like lots of different events that we do. A lot of our sort of community outreach is sort of through the form of events like nature focused events, because it just felt like, especially at the garden in such a big space, it just feels like there's a lack of places where people can just get together and be in nature and celebrate good food and that sort of thing. So we really focused on events over the last few years. And to be honest with you, we're all there's a team of us of about like 10 people now, 4 full-time and the rest part-time. We've got a fundraiser, a finance person, PR, we've got a comms person, an events manager, and a cafe manager and a couple of chefs, some of which were volunteers and then we've employed, some of them we've just gone through the traditional employment recruitment process. And it's just it's really grown kind of unexpectedly, and with that obviously we've learned a lot along the way, but we've also made tons of mistakes and spent a lot of money on projects and things like that including the kitchen, development of the kitchen. But where Mod Kitchen's up to at the minute is that we sort of, same as Ari, we have a sort of split between our community focused stuff and our income generation. So we have a catering arm that we've been developing for the last couple of years and trying to grow. And then we did have a cafe that we have decided not to carry on running in the same format as the last couple of years. We were open every day, every Saturday and Sunday. We've tried all different types of opening times and opening days. This is all based at Platt Fields Market Garden, by the way. And I think that there's been a lot of experimenting with like business model stuff and how to sort of make money through the kitchen so we have a lot of venue hire bookings that happen at the garden, and then we sort of say, oh, you can have our catering with it. So you kind of have this really complicated, like lots of different things that we do, and they all kind of link together. So when we do a corporate responsibility day, for example, we'll say, oh, you can have our catering, and then we have volunteers on that, and it all kind of helps. It's all quite sort of like circular. But because of the importance to how important it is to us to use seasonal produce and to use the organic produce and to support local growers, like the costs are a lot higher than standard catering offer. So our prices are a lot higher. So there's a certain market, and it is quite hard to break into. I don't know how Ari finds it, but I find it incredibly hard to get work through catering because so many people are locked into certain contracts. Suppliers they've got these very strict supplier kind of rules, and like we're a food business, a registered food business, but they've all got these like certain, especially like the bigger public, like they've got these sort of tied in contracts and stuff. And then just to get some like regular work, we're finding it quite hard. But then at the same time, I don't know how, we've only been going for 2 years really, so with that catering focus, so maybe it'll pick up. But we sort of focus, we try and dry and preserve a lot of our produce as well, and we've been funded to build like a big dehydrator at one of our other sites. So I don't know like if it's a strange time really for us as an organisation, because we've grown from obviously a grassroots position of just wanting something and responding to the local community and doing stuff that like feels right and kind of running off that, to then becoming quite responsible for paying members of staff, a large volunteer network, and there's a lot of sort of bureaucracy and that sort of paperwork and stuff that we need to do that takes up a hell of a lot of time, more than ever before, when you have to do it properly. Like we were very much like, oh yeah, come on down, it'll be, and it was really like, it was all about welcoming people into the space, all we needed to do was be friendly and get people there, sort of thing. And we're in a very different place now where we feel like we have to be, everyone needs like pay rises, and everyone needs, so there's a shift to being not as connected to the volunteers and to the people that are in part of the volunteer network, but also something that's been going really well is the workshops, the cooking workshops and the education side of things. So it's a constant, it feels like it's always changing, and it'd be interesting to know if people what other points people are at, and if there's like ways that I can obviously learn from other people as well. But financially, hospitality is just doesn't feel like it's in a good place at the minute, and I think we're really feeling that. The gardening side of things is actually doing really well. We're actually doing quite well there, but it's so the idea that the garden was to go with the cafe and the food side of things was part of this sort of circular system and part of the business model, but actually the garden side of it subsidizes the catering and the kitchen side of it quite a lot. But just because we have these principles and we have these things that we're very strict with, and that we don't want to ever have to what's the word, thingy on. So
compromise on. Yeah.
compromise. Thank you.
Brilliant. I'm just going to pause you there, Jo. Thank you so much. That sounds like an amazing journey that you've been on. And I'm sure people have got lots of different questions about that. And it's amazing. There's so much in both of your, experience, both of your stories. Sorry about can you hear that background noise? Sorry about that. Okay, that's good. It's a hairdryer. Yeah, so let's just have another minute just to gather our thoughts, jot down our questions, and then the rest of the session is really for Q&A, discussion, and maybe we'll use the put up your hand react button at the bottom. If you click on the react button, there's a raise hand thing, and we can do that, and then I can take questions in the order that they come up. We'll just do that in a minute. Okay, fab. Let's start the Q&A. Jade's got her hand up. Over to you, Jade. So, ask your question.
Oh yeah, I'm interested in how we actually pay for expensive, good quality food. So I wanted to check I just got it right with Coexist, that you raise money from doing external catering and use that money to help pay for the good quality food from the farmers. And I've got a secondary question, which I think you might have touched on a bit already, that some of our projects are making money. They've tried all the stuff. They've tried running a cafe. They've tried doing pay as you feel. They've tried doing external catering, all that, and they keep losing money. The one thing that does seem to make money for some of them is doing ticketed cook-alongs. So they have, I don't know, Syrian refugees being part of the project, something like that. They cook a Syrian meal together. They provide the ingredients, the sort of cooking stations to learn to cook, and people eat together at the end. So they do that as sort of team builders or a birthday party or something in the evening, and then they've got the kitchen in the daytime for community use, and that seems to make money. So I want to know if that is making money everywhere, or whether we've just had a bit of fluke in our projects, and to check in with you at Coexist about whether I was right about how you're paying for your food.
You're muted, Ari.
Thank you, Jade. Yeah, no, that sounds really great. Cook-alongs. We don't do anything exactly like that, but something maybe similar. How do we pay? So, I mean, the catering, I think I might have mentioned, is about 50% of our. So we generate our own income for that whole project, about 50%. So the whole of the rest of our project is funded by grants or donations. So I wouldn't say that necessarily that our catering pays for our community classes. I would say that as a whole project, which we're about a kind of £300,000 a year in terms of our overall income, is that probably is about 50% of that is grant funded donations and 50% of that is external catering, and not just catering but also events, ticketed events, public classes that we like charge people for to come and make homemade pasta or pickling and fermenting, and then also venue hire. So we hire out our kitchen to people to do either their own community based work. So for example, tonight a homelessness support charity is doing a cooker class with the people that they support, and they use the kitchen regularly. So, or it could be a caterer or a birthday party. So yeah, it's not exact science, but it's that I think as a non-profit where you're horrible to speak in kind of like capitalist terms when you're trying to challenge it, but where your product is social change. Sadly, in this like society, social change is not helping to like pay the rent. So in order to ensure that we're doing social change, we need to somehow pay the rent, and that rent is through, I think will substantially always be through grants and donations unless we have a massive paradigm shift. So yes, external catering, yes, venue hire, yes, everything like that. I think we could increase it, but I think it will be a surprise to find 100% based on revenue generation when you, in this kind of profit-based world, when you are focusing on social change. I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, we want to do more external. We want to do more about generating our own income in the variety of ways.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ari. Did you want to follow up with anything, Jade, or is that good for you? Cool. Mark.
Yes, thank you. This is for both Ari and Jo. I wondered what your thoughts, what the organization's thoughts are on food resiliency, whether it's something that's intrinsic in the organization, or is there active planning and thinking, how the organizations fit into the local resiliency.
Jo, do you want to go?
Yeah, to be fair, we've had our shift towards education and training like this last year off the back of the fact that like we just, even if we were looking for people that have got more experience in growing, it is like really hard to find, especially obviously in the city. So we do feel like some of the things that we want to do more of is focus more on that side of things rather than like just generating and trading income. So and obviously, yeah, off the back of that, we've always, I mean, I think when you say resiliency, I'm assuming like you mean things like that, and everything that we do at the garden, it's about like we've just had like a 14 grand irrigation system put in, and we've done seed saving projects over the years, and I think just educating people around all that sort of stuff, and it is the way that we do that. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yes, thanks. And particularly in terms of working with the local community to guard against shocks, unexpected shocks to the local food community.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's when there's so little land to really grow on, I suppose it's just all I think we're not going to be able to supply the city, but if we can teach people, I think that feels like the furthest reach that we've got.
Thank you.
Ari, do you want to add anything to?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just as similar to what Jo is saying is that, and I think that is all about how we collaborate as networks. So Mud is not going to be able to do that all on their own, and neither is the Coexist Community Kitchen. But if we're looking at the idea of challenging like the food system and that is current and the resilient and making it more thriving as well as resilient, is a whole massive movement shift, and I think we play a small role within that, and that we work with other community kitchens and other food projects in Bristol on a kind of quite localized level around like education and connection and like policy basis in the city. And then I guess you hope that you are also contributing to a wider national picture and then again international. But I think that that in terms of food resilience is such a systemic issue that we play a part in our local network.
Thank you.
Chiara.
Yeah. So at the end of your presentation, Jo, you were saying that when you were explaining that it's really hard to tap into the catering and hospitality industry at the moment, and you find that the garden side of your work is more kind of subsidizing the kitchen side. Could you maybe just make me more of examples of what type of garden work? Is it like, I don't know, education through schools, or is it, trading the veg? Because there is this idea that it's very hard for farming organizations or garden organization to actually deliver a kitchen. So I think it's, what you're saying is quite new to me. So I would like to understand a bit better.
Well, so just because of our experience now, and obviously, like, being part of a network, and a network that's definitely growing of community gardens and community growing spaces in the city, and a lot of them don't have the same experience of literal garden design and build of these projects. And also we've got, like, because we're a bit more developed from an organizational perspective, we've got a lot of the stuff that new groups haven't got, so that we can support them with their projects as a service. And also because, like, especially we were all a bit younger, obviously literally younger than now, but Sam and Mike have got, because a lot of community garden spaces, like, people that are involved in them haven't exactly got all of the bits of experience and skills, etc., that you need, so we can bring that. So for some, so we seem to be getting quite a lot of like paid work to do that, which, because it's not grant based, we can support the work. It's an income, and it's not just for community groups, it's for all sorts of, like, bars, restaurants and things like that. They all want green spaces, and food growing in general is, I think, becoming more of a service that people, or not just food growing, but the design and build of those projects is becoming like more needed and wanted. And then so it's mainly that, really. And also the food that we grow at the market garden goes into, and we don't charge the kitchen side of the business for any of that produce, but what we do is we buy wholesale from the organic wholesaler. So there is a sort of another secondary way that the garden is subsidized, the kitchen is subsidized, because the growing that happens at the garden, food that we're growing there, is going into the kitchen. So then that's. Oh, sorry, I can't hear you. So I think you're still on mute.
Oh, yeah. So you mean you are using the kitchen also for transforming some of the produce, and then
Yeah, all of everything that we grow either is given out to volunteers, or is used in catering, or is used for the community lunch, or it's preserved or pickled, or in some form or another.
Yeah, thank you. Great.
Great. Hello.
Yes, thank you very much to both presenters. My question it comes from a lived experience of working 12 years in a university, working with the students, paying them the minimum wage to work with us as volunteers. So I'm very interested, actually, what kind of both of you said, because how do you ensure that a community kitchen or market garden or any actually community project doesn't burn out the very people that it was built to serve? Because a lot of volunteer reliant models use, predominantly, I don't know, sort of women, carers, people with, like, I don't know, flexible schedules, and actually, kind of all the systems that we are all trying to fight, and inequalities of capitalism. So how do you make sure that this is done properly? Because actually, as someone who works with Northern Lily Victoria, my colleague, we are always very, very aware of this, that we love volunteers, we want volunteers, but we also want to be, like, really kind of like, kind of ensure that we are not just expecting people to come in, every Tuesday and actually do things for free, or just a meal or whatever. So I don't know, so sub question is, at what point does the community led become a euphemism for underfunded or undervalued? And I just kind of like really interested to know this. It's probably like multifaceted and multi-dimensional, but if I can hear your point of view, I would be really delighted. Ari, you're on mute.
Try go and then Jo, you go after. So
Yeah.
wow, that's such a good question. I know people always say that when people ask a question to give a little bit more time for them to think, but I actually think that's such a great question because it's something that is very present for us. And that started from the very, very beginning of anyone being a volunteer, is that no matter what, we cannot emotionally burden volunteers. So the whole way that, yes, our organization depends on volunteers, but depends on volunteers plural. So each individual singular volunteer at any point, if they need to step out, not come, drop, that say they can't come that morning, like the ethos of how we work with volunteers is that we need to be able to hold the organization thread and sustain it in a skeleton, and that they bring the color and the joy and the context to it. And if they start becoming the skeleton and the timber frame and the structure, then that is a problem. And so I think it's about how do you frame that at never one point, it's always, if you can't come, that is for you, and that we need to know that we can hold some way what we're doing without the fact that it's depending literally on individuals who are volunteering, and that we have enough of a network, we have enough people volunteering on a day, that means that if multiple people dropped out, they would drop out and it wouldn't stop the project. So I think, and then it's about how we really treat people, how we really have that expectation, that the expectation is you are here. It is deeply important that you're here. We run on the possibility, we don't we run on part funding, part external catering, and largely volunteers, but that volunteering always feels like that is their choice, and that they are contributing and connecting, and that their feedback is greater than what for them, or is equitable in what they feel that they're giving. And I think that is just about, that's a way of doing it, is a way of being, is a way of talking about it, and it's a way of ensuring that at never one point that one person says I cannot come, that they would ever be expected to be. And so I think it's but then I think, how do you do that? You have to be able to somehow manage that moment, and if multiple people drop out. So I guess it's less of we still do depend on volunteers, but ensuring that the way that we talk about that and the way that their pressure is on them is absolutely not part of it. But I totally hear you. Volunteering needs to feel like it's a choice. And of course, it's holding up and plastering gaping wounds of our society through these projects. I recognize that. But it still needs to feel, whether you're choosing because you're rich in time, or whether you are looking for, you are rich in time, or you're rich in money, or whatever you're doing for why, you need to know that is because you want to do it, and then the equitable return from them begins to be part of that project, rather than that they are dependent. So I don't know if that's very practical, but that's how we focus on it.
Yeah, I agree. And as the all of that, and the way that I sort of see it is that we always have paid staff, and the person responsible for anything is paid. So we don't expect someone that's unpaid to turn up and open up and close up and do all of those things that no one actually really wants to do. And the other thing is that we've always massively focused it on being a social thing, and it's not about, I think the term volunteer, it's hard, isn't it? Because it's not choosing to come. And especially with garden, there's two things. So with gardening club, we've called it gardening club because people don't need to come at a set time, and they don't need to stay till a set time, and they don't need to do anything is expected of them. They can turn up and be in a chill mood and do 1 hour's work and sit around for the rest of the day if they want. And we have large numbers of people that come, and I think probably because of that reason, but also thankfully because there still is enough work getting done for us to feel like we're making progress on the garden, and that includes peeling spuds sometimes and things like that. And then more recently, we've started recruiting for volunteers in the kitchen, because we changed the sort of the business model of the kitchen, because we were honestly hemorrhaging cash. So we were just if we want to keep it open, which we really did want to, what we could do is always have a paid member of staff in a kitchen chef, but we can get some more specialised support from volunteers, as in like come in for 2 hours and this is when you come in, and then leave, or you stay. And it's really like, and we set it up on WhatsApp, and we got like 100 people join the WhatsApp group. So in my head, that to me sounds like people want to do it because they want to get involved and they want to make friends and they want to learn how to cook and they want to like be involved in a project. And it's not just about labor and how much worth their time is worth monetarily. It's about what you can gain when you're in a community and when you feel like you're part of something. So as long as they, like you say, like if you don't ever expect them to be delivering something that is essential to the functioning of the business. And I really like that analogy of the skeleton, like, you know, that's exactly it, isn't it? Like, that isn't right. And one of the things from when we very first started setting up was like everyone that I met in a community garden was burnt out or had been burnt out and therefore wasn't involved anymore, and the garden had died a death because everyone had left, and it just looked so painful to see, to those people that cared so deeply about it and felt like they had nothing left. And also and so one of our part of our model has always been that it's about paying someone to look after a space, because otherwise it's not fair, is it, really?
Thank you, Jo. That's brilliant. Just want to make sure we've got about 5 minutes left, just under. So I want to make sure we get a question from Kieran and a response to that, and hopefully get you a question in too, Matthew. Kieran.
Yeah, sorry, I can't get my camera working. I just wanted to say that I lived in Manchester for years and years, so I was well aware of mud and Platt Fields Market Garden and everything like that. Cool. So yeah, it's great to meet you. I think the question we have I'll try and make this quick, because we only have 5 minutes. But a lot of our work, we work with a lot of surplus produce, and what a challenge that we face is trying to integrate high quality, ethically grown food alongside that surplus. We get tremendous amounts of surplus from supermarkets and places like that, around sort of 100 tons a month, and it's just sort of how we integrate better produce alongside that. And I just wonder whether that was a challenge that either of you have faced in sourcing and things like that. Yeah.
Probably more of an Ari question, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Kieran. Yes, I think so. We receive like some surplus like through Fair Share as a one of the kind of national distributors of surplus food. But we also do it, I guess this is not the same in terms of surplus food, but we also work with a local gleaning network, and that is an incredible, I think, Jo, you said you were involved in that, and it's like that is an incredible, again, like a product of our very broken society, that there's so much surplus, beautiful organic vegetables being ploughed back into the land that growers are not being paid for. But if it's redistributed to community organisations and we can either share it as actual produce or cook it down into meals, or use it in our cookery classes. So that's one of the ways in which we integrate that. And I think, I think it is a real challenge with surplus, because especially if you're working with a supermarket, you're talking about processed food. So you have less of a control over what you're using and receiving. But I would say that mostly we don't focus on that because we won't get ingredients in the same way. We'll get already created food or like high processed food. So, but I totally hear you, and I wonder if there's some sort of gleaning network connection that you can work with to get also surplus food, but that is really good quality ingredients.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Matthew, go for it. We've got one minute left, so
1 minute, and it's already a question for Jo, and I echo everybody else's praise for you both. Really fantastic presentations. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm Matthew in Cornwall. Jo, how do you get a registered food business allowed to cook in a polytunnel? What's the trading health and safety angles on?
You don't, we because we have a kitchen that's registered, and that's where we like prepare and store and look after everything to make everything safe.
And
then you need to go in.
building, is it? That's in the
That's
building.
the building. Yeah,
Right.
so that's
It's
like
it's okay. I thought it was right. Sorry, I misunderstood.
So we have a proper kitchen that's in the like in a building, and then we built an outdoor kitchen, which is essentially like a grill, like a big sort of like a grill area, that has its own like fire we treat that as if it's a street food setup. So it would be, if you wanted to set up something, you'd still have to have a base kitchen where you would get all your paperwork started, but then you would just treat it as if it's a street food project. So you need to have a hot water, a mobile hot water sink, and all of those things. We just do it like that.
So when you said, sorry for my confusion, when you said it, I thought I noted it was the smaller polytunnel in your lovely, beautiful drone.
Oh yeah, no, it was the
Oh, it's the yellow. Is it the yellow shed bit behind it? Sorry, I did a screen grab of your, I hope you don't mind, of your lovely photo.
I think it was the orange building at the back.
Orange building at the back. Yeah, yellow, orangey building. Right, got you. So my misunderstanding. I understand how you did that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matthew. So we're at time, and I've put in the chat if anyone has more questions. Ari and Jo, I hope you don't mind if just letting Jo back in.
sorry.
If there are other questions that come up, if we can forward them to you.
Yeah, no problem.
Amazing. We're so grateful for you to share all of that with us. And, we're really sort of wanting to develop what you say about the resilience around networking with each other, Ari, and being more than the sum of our parts is really part of what this project is doing, and working with, connecting with each other, and finding inspiration and solidarity with each other as a network. So really appreciate you being part of that, and to all of you for coming along. And there's lots of other questions that I've got buzzing away in my mind as well. But is there any final word you want to give before we go, Ari or Jo?
Oh, just to say thank you for hosting us, Maddie and Chiara, and for you guys coming along on a sunny afternoon to hear us speak.
It was great. I've got so many more questions to come back to you with them. But really looking forward to follow what you're doing, and just great. So inspiring.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I would say that I think that if there was more, if the mud could focus more on one thing, it probably would be different. I think because we focus on both garden and kitchen, that's to our detriment. So I don't necessarily think it's a good thing. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in the network here, there are lots of different models with different starting points, with different assets, different challenges. And one thing we didn't cover was like about the security of your tenure of your building, or your land, and that plays a really big part in
Totally.
in sort of being able to take a hold of like a future vision as well, and rather than just being like year on year kind of hoping that you'll be able to run for another year. So that longevity is really good. And I love that you're both kind of established and beloved and employers, and trying to hold that balance as you sort of journey towards the vision. And so much of what you've said is stuff that's come up in various ways in all the conversations that we've had over the last year and a half, and that we're grappling with. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for carrying on for a few more minutes, and really appreciate all of your time. Lovely to see you.
Bye. See you, everyone.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.